All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Timing Research Analyze Your Trade, episode number 122 for April 7th, 2020. My name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of TimingResearch.com, and today we will be discussing your trade ideas. So I have arranged today for the Jim, the option professor, to join us, and also Matt Buckley is back with us. And Matt, the last time you were on was February 18th, and that was just, I think that was a day or two before the peak, and
Yep.
And you were sounding the alarm on coronavirus, and you know, and I think that was a few weeks before any of us here in the United States really fully realized how much this would affect our lives. So, but you were definitely sounding the alarm on it early. So, so great to have you back and see what you have to say for us today. So, yeah, we're going to get started here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jim.
Okay, thanks, David, and welcome to everybody here for the broadcast. With us today, of course, is Matt Buckley, and he's going to go over, obviously, his views on these stocks. Again, last time he was with us, he definitely was concerned about this virus. His reach for information is quite a bit wider than many of us, so he has a lot of sources that he can rely upon to get some details that maybe we're not seeing. And obviously the worldwide virus became such a dramatic thing. Not only that, Whiz was also saying how the prices up at 3,400 area on the S&P were so stretched, and the valuations and the GDP and all the rest of it, advanced decline lines, all kinds of technical indicators were flashing. And then you threw the virus on there, and clearly that rollover information was really good. So for newcomers, Wiz, just a quick background on yourself and what's going on with Top Gun Options.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Dave, for having me back. Yeah, the world has completely changed since the last time we spoke. But no, things are actually going fantastic, which kind of sucks to say in this type of environment with people dropping dead here. But no, we're actually doing our full throttle week. We did a free trade brief this morning. We're going to do some training tonight at 7. Just kind of some sample training, but yeah, we had an absolute blast. Unfortunately, a lot of people got educated really quick in the stock market that for every buyer there's a seller, like we talked about last time. That rally, October through essentially January, a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of Fed, a lot of bit of S&P 500 companies buying back their own shares, and all of that's more or less gone. So yeah, we're doing fantastic. We literally made millionaires at TGO. Hell, we made some folks millionaires just we've been pounding. Maybe we can talk about it in a little bit. Brazil, EWZ into the dirt. That guy's the village idiot, man. I mean, he's making Trump look sane. I mean, yeah. It's a cold, get back to work. Everything. So yeah, maybe we'll talk about it. But no, everything's going good.
Yeah, as great as the optimism was up at 3,400, obviously the pessimism reached the same crescendo or even beyond when we went to 2175. So this throwback rally here that we're seeing obviously is not too much of a shock, because when you get this far away from all the moving averages, it doesn't take much to make it pop a little bit. And so do you have any kind of a feeling on this rebound rally? Is it a situation where the legs will come out of it, or do you think what do you think probability-wise that we see some more back and forth?
Yeah, the markets tend to overshoot to the bottom, and then they tend to overshoot to the top. So, I've been calling this a W. I said, the easiest. I can't stand when people say this, but I am going to say it because it's true. This was the easiest money ever to be made. This is going to be difficult. So we're going to be kind of doing a W here. If I had my druthers, I think the next leg is down. A lot of the smart money I talk to say we have to, retest this low, kind of what 2175 or whatever it was, or 2200. Let's use round numbers. Yeah. It's the second easiest money that's ever going to be made in life is somehow out here in the future when we actually are going to get through this thing. This thing is going to go away. I'm hearing second, third reinfections though, and September, October, it's going to come back and all that type of stuff. So we're looking at a new normal. But it's sad to say, I think we got another 10 to 20% maybe to go down in this market. And then the market's going to get what I call COVID fatigue. I'll go Gordon Gekko on this. The market's not going to care at a certain point that, X state hit X amount of deaths. At the end of the day, it's just going to get tuned out. And it's sad to say, but I'm here to talk about the market. So I think the market eventually gets COVID fatigue because markets are forward looking. We're supposed to be, looking out there. And all we're kind of doing is, looking at what alligators are closer to the boat. So big picture, we can hop in our jet and fly out to September or January and maybe nibble at maybe some bullish long calls on some good names. But this is very, very tactical trading. I mean, look at the 900-point swing in the Dow today, over about 900 points. Just absolute insanity. We had
it's the poster child of Turnaround Tuesday, isn't it?
Exactly. That's exactly right. I mean, we had a little bit of this quadruple top here. Yeah. Like 26.50, 1, 2, 3. And as soon as we broke through that here yesterday, that was a hell of a short squeeze. And short squeezes end. And it looks like today the air kind of came out of it. Plus, we got a 3-day weekend coming up with market close on Friday for Good Friday. And nobody I'm talking to that swings a lot of big money around. A lot of managers, nobody's going long into a long weekend where it could be just a horror. So I think we give some of this. Back.
Yeah, you're showing it closing down on the day today, right?
Yeah. Dow closed down like 26 points. They closed at the lows of the day. Yeah.
How many decades have we heard the words "Turnaround Tuesday"? So I mean, anybody who has not, anybody who's heard of it is not totally surprised that we did this.
Correct.
Because if you're going to turn around like this out of the blue, and clearly when you go from 27.56 down to where we did, that's clearly out of the blue. Only somebody who's familiar with the term Turnaround Tuesday would be going, well, that's not too unusual.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And
everyone else is wondering where their wallet went.
Correct. Yeah, that's a great point. We added to some bearish positions today into this pop because it just makes sense. This is not the all clear by any stretch, and neither was the end of the quarter rebalancing and window dressing a couple weeks ago. People were coming out of the woodwork to do the you're wrong. I'm like, watch, and then we imploded. Same thing. So I just think there's more pain ahead until the market just kind of tunes it out, sticks their fingers in their ear, and la 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 la. We're not paying attention to how bad it is, but it's horrific. Talking to a lot of small business owners today, Wells Fargo stopped loaning. They hit their 10 billion mark. Marco Rubio down here in Florida is going apeshit. He's like, what do this money's guaranteed by the government. And I talked to a buddy over the weekend who's a heavy, and he's like, I got to be honest with you, Whiz, the quote, full faith and credit of the United States government ain't exactly the words, still carry the same force that they used to in the old days. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. So the president and Mnuchin, you remember Mnuchin screaming at the TV for the past 3 weeks, we're going to get, money in the hands of people now. Every time he said the word now, I'm like, do you mean now?
Was his nose growing every time he made a statement? Or?
It was, as a military guy, when you say now, it's now.
Right.
So now for government, it's 3-5 weeks and stuff like that. So I agree with the Wall Street Journal. This was a great headline. I think this was last week. The worst of the global sell-off isn't here yet, bank and investors warned. Wall Street is only now coming to grips with the dislocation being wrought by the coronavirus here. And it sucks for a lot of people listening because I guarantee you their 401k is a 101k now. But this wasn't panic selling. I mean, it looks like a nightmare, but it was orderly. Yeah. And I really don't think we've seen the panic selling yet. My buddies, some of them have gone quiet, which scares me. The mortgage shoe is about to drop. Physically impossible if people ain't paying rent or mortgage for these companies to survive. Then it's a circular firing squad to their bank. And then here we go with these 3 magic letters again, AIG.
Right,
right. All the insurance for all these financial products. So, I'm when some of my buddies go quiet, whether they're in the military or on Wall Street, it's usually not a good sign.
Now, this guy, Steve Schwartzman of Blackstone, a big shooter, obviously, was saying that we have a $21 trillion economy, and he's looking for $5 trillion, or about 25% of it, to go bye-bye here. And that's a
Wow.
very big contraction. And I don't think
Jeez.
we fully appreciated what those numbers are. And
No.
this, I'm going to hold on. I'm going to gut it out. I'm not going to get out. You know, like you say,
Yep.
that can be tested pretty good on the next time down.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny, listening to some pundits. I'm going to nibble here. I'm definitely nibbling here. I'm nibbling here. I'm like, all right, well, you ran out of cash probably here. All the nibblers that were doing this on the way down, especially, well, there was a nibbler right there, Donald Trump in Davos, or India, actually, saying stocks are great. I'd be buying stocks here. And then we lost another like 2,000 points on the Dow. So yeah,
One of the managers on TV say, and this was at the high of the day, early in the morning. He goes, "I'm 92% long stock, 8% cash, but I'm not going to put that 8% in just now. I might need it on the next drop." I go, "Man, you're going to need a lot more than 8% cash if it goes back down."
Oh my God, man! And a lot of the retail folks listening don't understand that most hedge funds, first of all, aren't hedged, right? Out of the 10,000 hedge funds, I can almost count on one hand the number of who use options, but most of them are long only. People don't understand that hedge. A lot of big money is just long only. Your Leon Coopermans or your, Carl Icahns or all those guys. They buy and sit there and hold. So it's for them to get out of some big massive positions and sell. First of all, it's going to leave a wake. Somebody massive dumps, like, let's say, their Apple shares. Well, guess what? That starts kind of the panic. So a lot of guys are still sitting here looking around like, holy crap, are we going to go much lower? And if we do, we might have to start getting out just to liquidate for margin calls. So it's interesting because, as sitting here trading by myself or with some of my team, we can maneuver pretty quickly. Like a F-18 Hornet, we can pull on a stick, pull 9Gs, and go from bullish to bearish in a blink of an eye. But these, I do a daily call with some guys, and they're like, "Oh, okay, good idea. Let me take it to my investment committee." I'm like, "What?" Yeah. So you got to go. You got to go pitch stuff to either open or close in some of these places, and it's done by committees. So I don't know, man. I think we're definitely going to get through it, and it'll be a best buying opportunity of your lifetime type of thing. But I think it's going to be the darkest before the dawn here.
Yeah. Well, let's start out with the list here. Right now, the first one on the list is obviously a stock that people do believe will come out the other side because of obviously their 5G and cloud and other things that they've got going. And obviously, it has been hit much less than the other companies. So this is Microsoft, MSFT, and today it was as high as 170, but it went home at 163 and change. So what are we thinking here on MSFT?
I love Microsoft. I mean, I used to, this used to be an old boring stock, kind of your General Motors type of stock. But look at just the 3-month. The green line here is the S&P 500. So it's outperforming. It kind of looks like it, but it's definitely outperforming the S&P 500. Money's got to go, steal the famous line, money never sleeps, but money's got to go somewhere. So I bought some Apple today because, folks, even in a downturn, hedge fund managers, financial institutions, that money has to go somewhere. And, now, although it would be a little bit safer to put it in your mattress or out in the yard in a Folgers can. But so Microsoft is one of these names. They call them, I've heard the term MAGA stocks now, right? Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Apple. So fund managers, we're seeing some flow into these solid names, even if we're going to get another leg down. Microsoft ain't going out of business tomorrow. So I'm definitely long-term bullish on Microsoft, and it's got a nice looking chart there.
Yeah. Do you think a pullback towards about a 60% drop of the move we just had, which would take you around 150, would be an area to monitor?
Yeah. A little support, resistance, support. That looks like a nice. And these type of names like round numbers. They like 200, 150, and 100. They don't like 163, 49. So usually these round numbers act as magnets. If we get a little bit of a pullback, I'd love to get into Microsoft at 150 in options, obviously. But yeah, like I said, if we're at least going to chop around, and the market closing on the low of the days here and not want to be long going into this long weekend. We might get an opportunity to see Microsoft actually back at 150 maybe this week. I mean, look at the past couple of days. It went from 150 all the way up here to, the big $13 bump. So yeah, I think 150 is solid.
Yeah. This next one is a virus stock along with things like Zoom. And again, it had a great run, but once it came out with some decent news that maybe there's some leveling off in cases, this and that, it definitely got the air taken out of it. And
Yep.
this is Teladoc, TDOC. What are you thinking here?
I don't know the company. I saw this on the list and tried to do some research real quick. So I just from you're better at the technical analysis stuff than I am. I don't. That just kind of looks like a falling knife to me, especially yesterday when everything and my mother were going up in price. I mean, at 1,600 points on a day yesterday, and this thing is kind of doing a slow dive here. And I think that's the 50-day moving average. So from just a technical analysis look, it doesn't look too exciting.
Yeah, similar to the S&P, where the moving averages were so far above the market. Boom, you have a rally. People don't understand. It's just really trying to go a reversion closer to the mean. This thing has got 86 on a 200-day, and at the high, it was actually 100% above its 200-day.
Wow.
And obviously, when you get up to that air, it doesn't take much to get the plane to lose some altitude, right?
Correct. Yep. Absolutely agreed.
All right. Well, the next guy is the one you took a little bit of a bite out of, no pun intended. And what are we thinking here on Apple?
I think Apple's Apple. It's interesting because I think the last time we talked, I actually said, hey, heads up for Apple. Because I remember, God, I can't even, it seems like a lifetime ago, we were talking about a phase 1 trade deal and everything great with China. Now you that's not even mentioned anymore. Why am I getting at that? The reason I'm getting at this is because when at the lows of the trade war, I remember China actually mentioning the word Apple, like, hey, Apple, you'd be the first to get clipped. If this thing gets more serious, all the 10 and 11-year-old boys and girls you're using in China to build your $1,000 iPhones is going to go away. So I just don't understand. And remember, markets can remain irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So the stock and the economy stocks and the economy aren't even close to being in reality together. But usually when they do come in line with each other, the economy and the stock market, it's usually pretty violent. The risk here with Apple and just everybody coming up starting more or less next week with earnings is there's no E in the P to E ratio. There's no earnings. So, I mean, a fifth of Apple's revenue comes from China. Now, I get that they're, quote, open. I don't believe a word that comes out of China. They closed all the movie theaters in their countries the other day. So
did you see the picture from the Great Wall? They were trying to indicate that all the tourist sites are open, and so they showed 9 million people crunched together at the Great Wall. But all of them had the full mask on.
Oh,
so
my
I think
gosh.
I think it was like George Lucas with his camera, making a movie.
Exactly. So I like Apple for the long term. I mean, it's not like people aren't using their iPhones when they're stuck at home. And I think this will be, but this is like Microsoft. This is the MAGA stocks. This is one where fund managers and folks are plowing into. And it's obviously, it just didn't suffer as much in this pullback as the S&P 500. So I like Apple. I'm bullish in it. I bought some, actually, I haven't done this one. I just bought the stock and actually just selling some upside calls against it for now.
Yeah, because you still have to give it room down towards the highs of last year, which is around 200, don't you think? So the calls will give you some juice to come in to reduce your cash risk.
You bet. And we hung out I remember this, for like 3 months in Apple, rated 200. I mean, this was just, we had a little dip down here, but Apple hung at 200 and then just this rip your face off rally to the 320. So, if we are going to have some sort of massive another leg down, I think 200 is a realistic number. All the folks that I talked to, Apple for the past, at least in 2019, was the number one holding of every hedge fund. You had to have Apple in there. So you kind of got some institutional support underneath this thing. And I don't think they're going to let it pop below 200. So, but I buy more with both hands.
Oh, absolutely.
Down to 200.
Yeah. The gaming stocks are getting nailed. $4 million a day. They were saying the casinos in Macau were burning recently. I live in Nevada, so I can tell you that, when you have no people in your hotels, it's kind of hard to make money. So anyway, MGM tanked from $35 down to $5.90, and now it's trading at $13.63. What are we thinking about MGM?
We did some great work pounding Wynn and MGM into the dirt, and then during that turnaround week, I said I'm done. So implosion, dead bad bounce, and then we kind of gave almost half that back right here. I don't understand the math involved in some of this bailout. I mean, the airlines are a separate discussion, but casinos don't look the way they do because they're charities. I mean, you go in, you drink, there's a cocktail waitress, and up there goes, $100. Shit. And they're demanding a bailout. So it's a little, I don't know how this is going to work. Now, don't get me wrong, the housekeeper, the dealer, all the employees there, holy crap, it sucks. They're out of work. Literally, one of our afterburner traders lives out in Vegas, and, sending us pictures. Literally, a bomb went off. There's not a person on the street. So I don't get the math of this, how this thing even recovered off the lows. I would expect, without no kidding, government bailouts, that these guys, we start seeing some chapter 7s or chapter 11s. I just don't get the math. I don't get the math of the airlines. At least Mnuchin and Trump are trying to make it just a hair more palatable with the airlines by saying it's a national security issue. So that's, you can kind of go, yeah, all right. But MGM, Wynn, Caesars, all these guys. And I get a little bit of the rebound was on Macau, but anybody seen any picture? I've been to Macau. Anybody seen any pictures of their casinos are packed? No, man. Like you said, they're still all wearing masks and freaking the hell out.
Also, one last thing on the airlines, Lufthansa has grounded 1,500 of their longer planes because they think the return to traffic is going to be a much further runway.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about think about social distancing. When we start easing, kind of, this what we're doing right now, what's it ease to? Can we go back out again and we have to socially distance? How do you socially distance? Are we sitting every other seat at a gaming table? What about an airline seat? Are middle seats gone forever? Cracks me up how people really don't use their brains. As an aviator, I can tell you that air is recycled in an airplane, so it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the last seat on the plane or up in the cockpit, man. That air is recycled. So I don't know. I don't know how.
That's really what makes the flying dangerous. Is you get some guy in 24B who's coughing. Just because you're in 47D doesn't mean you're not going to get hit.
No. It's recycled air. That's the way the environmental control systems work on aircraft. It's not like you open the window. So I don't know. I don't get the math behind there ain't no way Mnuchin or Trump's getting in front of the country and going, we have to bail out the casinos because they're very important. The people are, don't get me wrong. I'm just talking Gordon Gekko here, as you can't justify a bailout of the casinos. So I very long answer to the short ticker symbol is I'd be bearish on these, but I'd rather just have some popcorn right now and wait for a confirmed, okay, they're not getting bailout. Now I'm going to pound it into the dirt.
Yeah. With regards to everyone's at home, and a lot of kids are at home because the schools are all out. So obviously we got to eat. And the next one up is Domino's DPZ, which had a nice pop from 280 up towards 360, and then today it went back down to 333. So what are we thinking about pizza?
Pizza. I mean, we're done actually here in the Buckley household with this stuff because I don't know why first of all, eat it too much.
We want to get into our clothes when the thing goes over.
Exactly.
You want to go to the beach and not have people start spearing you.
Exactly. Roll him back in. He's suffocating. I don't get the math of this either. If what they're saying is true, that this thing can live on cardboard, I don't understand how people are ordering Domino's pizza when the dude who delivers it might be sick, or the guy who made it might be sick, and it's not only on the food, but it's on the cardboard. I would not be nibbling in Domino's, so to speak, at all. I would be bearish on this. I don't know why the media or somebody isn't on this more, like, asking the president or Fauci or Dr. Birx, like, hey, does this thing live on plastic? 3 weeks ago, I saw the report from the CDC that said this thing lived for 17 days on the surfaces of the Diamond Princess, that cruise ship. It lived for
Wow.
over 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now, that's shiny, warm, that's a petri dish on itself, but I would not be getting bullish at all on Domino's. I'd be bearish.
Did you go down to Fort Lauderdale and get some of those passengers to stay with you for a while?
Yeah. My God, man, I can't even, that's insane.
It is. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Our governor, and I got to be honest with you, man, life is a self-cleaning oven. At the end of the day, those people didn't get on a cruise ship 30 days ago. They got on like a week or 2 weeks ago. Oh, it's really cheap. When you get on a cruise ship, knowing that there's a global pandemic going on and other cruise ships have been quarantined, you're an idiot.
It's nutty.
And they should be floating around or dock at Gilligan's Island. They should not have let those people into Florida. Our governor, I might be giving him a run for his money. DeSantis.
Well, he got some heat from the White House. There's no doubt about that.
DeSantis is you can see the strings all the way up to Washington.
Yeah.
So,
and again, the thing up in San Francisco worked out not so well in the beginning. So I think there was a makeup call there. Here we got the aircrafts again. And again, if you want to know anything about this market reversing today and maybe us going back to the more melancholy outlook, this one here, Boeing, BA, is the poster child, because we were up at 165 almost today, but it went home at 141. What are you thinking here on Boeing?
So we pounded Boeing into the dirt. I got blown out of one or two, a bear call spread and some long puts here. I don't like flipping coins, but I've flown a Boeing product for 15 years and know a lot of folks, and it was the who was it? The Greenspan indicator. Remember, if he was like going into testimony with a big briefcase, he was cutting rates or whatever the Greenspan indicator was. A couple of my buddies were like, well, we see a lot of attorneys and a lot of big briefcases. So I thought they were going to be filing for Chapter 11. I mean, but the president, you have a put underneath Boeing, which is Donald Trump. He's, the majority of our bomber, fighter, tanker fleet is built by Boeing. It's not just a commercial airliner play. It's most of the flight deck of an aircraft carrier is our Boeing product. So you have a put underneath Boeing. But I think Nikki Haley's fantastic. The former UN ambassador and governor. She resigned from the board like 2 weeks ago and said, do not take a penny of taxpayer bailout. We need to figure this out on her own. And she split. She's like, I'm not going to be a part of it. So this is, if you listen to the president, Boeing ain't going out of business and we're going to take care of it. I still haven't seen the details on it. This might be some, jump in your Joint Strike Fighter, which is not a Boeing product, and maybe go out, January and just buy some 80 Delta calls in the money and look at them in a couple months from now. So bullish on Boeing, but I did some good work here and then bad work here because I got caught on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, when I heard that Nikki Haley thing, I thought, well, if Hunter Biden shouldn't have been working for the Ukraine, what does Nikki Haley know about aircraft?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, that's a side conversation. Let's go back to the stocks here. Anyway, so Boeing, down here, maybe between the lows of 90 and 120 might not be a bad place to kind of because, I was just looking, I watch short interest, and short interest is huge on a lot of stocks. But on Boeing, it's only 1.69%.
Wow.
And to give you an idea how big this company is, it's lost 3/4 of its value, and it's still $70 billion market cap. So this is a monster-sized company with nobody really shorting it. And
Correct.
You say the president is kind of bidding it a little bit. So I would think between 90, the lows, and what do you think? Maybe 120 or something like that?
Yeah, a little bit of a shelf around there, around that 120. So big gap move up on the rebalancing week. We gave back about half that gap was 120, right around there. So 120 would be a nice entry point. So I definitely think Boeing has maybe some down to go, but it does have a presidential put underneath it. Boeing can't go out of business. I mean, the stock, I think they closed, a couple plants and this and that, and somebody's sick and everything like that. But it's a national security stock. So out of all the potential, and it's comical just to see Mnuchin and the president go out of their way to lead every sentence with, "It's not a bailout." Okay. When anybody from the government stresses something isn't, it is. Like Democrats calling it the Affordable Care Act. It's not. So I'd be long Boeing, but you got to watch the short
You might
term.
also just get a reversion trade too. The 50 days at 238 and the 200 days at 324. Now, obviously, they've got a lot of inventory to sell, which may not sell so fast. But just the fact that it's so far oversold, you could get this thing to go back to 200 just on a bounce back, and it would still be way underneath its 200-day average.
Yeah. Look at that. The 200 days, 322. That, and they're not out of the woods at all. I know there's airliners packed all over the place, but their airliners are even more packed all over the place because of the MAX issue. I mean, we were talking about this, before with the whole MAX problem. So Boeing is not without its warts, so to speak. Yeah.
I don't want to hear Lufthansa's grounding 1,500 planes when I'm trying to sell planes. You know what I mean?
Yes. No. That's a bad thing. Yep.
All right. This next one's a software company, C-O-U-P, Coupa Software. And again, it had a little bit of a reversal today, but what are you thinking of this software company?
I don't know anything about this. What does it do? Do you know? What
Not
type
exactly.
of software? No. It does well. If it's meetings or anything like, I mean, the stock just doesn't look like it's been getting hammered, and it's been outperforming. We had an earnings event back here on the 16th. I just don't know. I'd be talking out of school here on this one. I don't follow it, and I mean, looks like a semi-decent chart for the market that we're in, but I don't. I card count, man. I walk up to the table. If I'm going to trade something, I look at it for a couple weeks to maybe even a month to understand the price action something, just like card counting. You got to go up, you got to read the deck, and then you can sit down. So I don't even know what this does.
Yeah, it's a decent sized company, $8 billion, but it is had a 52-week earnings per share of minus. So it's one of those companies that's kind of a cum liner where they're losing money now, but when Christmas comes, they're going to have presents for you, something like that.
Okay.
At any rate, let's go over to SPY, because that obviously is interest of everybody. And let's see what that looks like.
For me, I don't trade SPY. I trade SPX, and I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not an accountant, and I don't play one on TV. But it potentially, between you, God, and your broker or your accountant, there can potentially be better tax treatment if you trade the actual index over an ETF. So the SPY is actually the spider ETF. So I don't trade SPY, I trade SPX. And it's interesting because some people, I got all my lines all over the place. And it's interesting because people are like, geez, I can only trade one contract of SPX. I'm like, it's about percentages, folks. People, who are new, especially to options, don't understand that, whether you buy 100 contracts of SPY or one of SPX, if they both go up 50%, you both went up 50%. It's about the percentages.
And the volume today on yours is over 4 billion. So you're not in a party of one, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And remember, whenever, if it's an ETF that has an index, I'd rather trade the index. Remember, the indices like SPX settles in cash. SPY doesn't. It can settle in shares. So if it goes against you and you wake up with a boatload of shares in your account, either long or short. So I'm an SPX guy. It's really interesting the way, bottom out here, little. The next kind of resistance, and we kind of hit it today perfectly. That little drill bit up was 2750. So I like we talked about at the beginning. I love people who use like the counter thinking like this, like, oh, well, if everybody's saying we have to retest the March lows, then I'm going to go contrarian. That'll work one time out of 10 in your life, and you'll be broke before that one time happens to you. So trust me, when a lot of smart people are saying, we need to find some footing in this market, the footing would be retesting those lows. So I'm bearish. Like we talked about earlier, I think the SPX is going to come in, but you got to believe, you got to be bullish long term that we're going to get through this thing. I mean, the amount and the banks being kind of lost communication right now, like I said, is a little disconcerting. But think about what the Fed did. I remember sitting here and the Fed came in at the beginning of this crisis and launched a nuke. I'm like, oh my God, that massive. I'm like, well, they're almost, and another nuke. Oh, now they're really, and a nuke. And, the Fed has been going nuts. So all of this stimulus, I'm not talking about the, small business or the Pay Protection Act or anything like that. I'm just talking about overall, liquidity that the Fed's doing. I think, I'm hearing rumors that this phase 4, the Fed might be going back to Congress to get a new mandate, which would be to buy stocks.
Exactly. No, believe me, that's going to be in the cards because the rule book, there is no rule book.
Yeah, exactly. And I know for a fact that the Fed has been kind of busy bees behind the scenes. They bailed out Capital One. A couple firms in Chicago might or might not have gotten a little help from Uncle Sammy. Remember, they don't have to disclose this, folks. The front page of every government manual says, hey, in a national crisis, just do whatever you have to do, and maybe we'll tell people later.
Well, the law, I think, has to do with they're supposed to be buying mortgages or treasuries only. And so what now the game is they set up programs, then they fund the money through the programs, and then they're in compliance. That's really what got me in 08. I had no idea that they could just print $4 trillion out of blue and buy anything, they wanted to. It never happened before. And so obviously, and I never thought they'd keep interest rates at 0 for 10 years, but that's how we got to 3,400.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And now, I mean, we're almost looking at negative rates here, which is insanity. I mean, this is insane. So you're right. At the end of the day, Jerome Powell, I think it was last week or whenever it was, the days are running together. He pulled a Mario Draghi. I mean, I'll never forget when Mario Draghi said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to save the euro. That famous quote. And Jerome Powell more or less said, hey, man, we are here to do everything in our power. So, so short-term bearish on S&P 500, but long-term, I mean, geez, we got to, all this liquidity is going to go somewhere. But I think we are in for a violent drop here. If I just don't get the math either of all these small businesses not paying rent and mortgage companies.
No, it's a big mess, and it'd be very interesting to see how it unfolds because there's so many shoes that we're not talking about that are going to be dropping as well. This VIX, you're an option guy, so let's talk. When this VIX is up at 45 or 43, and we're up 150, 300 points on the S&P almost in 2 days, and they can't get that VIX to come down. It was really one of the things that said to me that this could be a Fugazi rally, and we could come right back down again because that VIX, is very elevated.
I covered this in the trade brief this morning. It's a Whizism. Market up, VIX up, something's up, and the market being up with the VIX up, I called a hold your nose rally yesterday. Nobody believed it. No, I listen to guys on phones trading, in their room. The algos and the big funds are pushing stuff. They're trading right now. This ain't. Yesterday wasn't a all clear or the president gave us some hope. What? New York reported the largest increase in deaths today. There ain't no, we're at the halfway through this thing. So the VIX being up when the market was up yesterday and today tells me all I need to know. They can't. The VIX is going to stay elevated. Remember, just take out the word volatility on VIX and put in uncertainty indicator. What's certain right now? Uncertainty. I mean, nobody knows how many deaths are going to be or how many businesses are going bankrupt or anything like that. So the VIX is going to stay up here until there's some certainty. And I've been using 5. I came up with 5, call it, buy indicators. The first one would be, and talked about the VIX, when I'm going to see that smash back down to the old days. If we see somebody smart, and not Trump, not Pence, if I see somebody smart use the V word, vaccine, Dr. Berg's, Gottlieb on CNBC, Fauci, or some smart company, Gilead, Moderna, Regeneron, Pfizer, somebody comes out and says we got a vaccine. Now, even, we get a vaccine, that's 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years away from full deployment. So, but I'm just talking about getting volatility down. It would be a trade. Another buy indicator or vol coming in indicator would be somebody uses the C word, contained.
Yeah.
This thing ain't contained right now. It's
Yeah.
it's just raging around. I mean, we're trying to contain it with the social distancing. Another buy indicator would be, and volatility coming in would be if we hear the words travel restrictions eased, to China or Europe. I mean, my God, man, we're not even flying, to Europe.
This recent trading, would you consider it a pressing of the illiquidity? Meaning, obviously, on the way down, you're unwinding the ETFs, you're unwinding everything. There's absolutely no buyers, and boom, you're pressing it. And then you get down to 21.75. There's been deleveraging, meaning the guys who were short got blown out. The short options and whatever. And then when you get down to 21.75, there's no liquidity on the buy side, on the sell side anymore, and they just press the side that has the weakest volume.
Exactly.
And now at 27.50. Obviously, people are willing to sell. So obviously, now nobody's really willing to buy up here at 27.50.
Correct.
And so they're pressing the sell side to find out who's got the huevos rancheros to buy.
That's exactly.
And there's not many people who have those huevos really, right now.
No, not right now. It's just there's too much uncertainty, and Thursday seems like it's a world away. But I've never seen, for the past 3 weeks, I've never seen the weekly jobless numbers ever so important in my entire 28 years of doing this. I almost never looked at weekly jobless numbers. Now it's an event. They're forecasting, I think, another 5 million people. So that'll be about 15-ish total. So and some of those jobs just ain't coming back. I mean,
if everybody can't go to work, the whole planet seems like it's unemployed.
Correct. Yeah. And I was helping a buddy out doing some disaster planning, about 20 people in his company. He's getting rid of most of them because he's like, you know what, working from home, I figured out that I really don't need all these people.
Yeah.
Mary just would come in and get lunch and drink coffee all day. So she's gone type of thing. So the VIX is going to stay up here because there's just way too much uncertainty. And
right.
I wouldn't wish the president's job on my worst enemy. It's god awful, but and the media, of course, is ripping them apart and trying to walk them in the ambush. But there's a happy medium between blowing smoke and sunshine that everything's fantastic and just we're all going to die. We got to get back.
He wants to be optimistic, and that's a nice thing. But obviously, we have to temper our optimism with some reality as well. Let's jump into these things. AMD, 101 million shares traded today. It's up on the day, but it did give back some of its gain. What do you think about AMD?
I like AMD. This goes right into my Microsoft area. All these tech companies are pretty solid. Even with everybody in the world shut down, sitting at home, we need tech. I've always loved AMD. Just haven't traded in a while. I'd be a buyer of AMD. I mean, it just, look at this. It's more or less we had this massive spike after earnings, and then it's only gave a little bit of that back. What a solid looking stock and ton of volume. So yeah, I like AMD.
Yeah, it's always trades big volume. This next one I'm not familiar with at all. It's Dexcom, DXCM is the symbol. It is
never heard of it.
Probably, yeah. I never heard of it either. So let's go to the next
Healthcare, medical equipment, supplies. Some of this stuff, folks, I'll admit that, I sat down at the blackjack table and put Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna. It would be the same thing with these medical device companies. I don't know if they make masks or something like that. Getting slammed 7% today, though, ain't pleasing to my eye. I need to dig into this a little bit more before I'd even say anything.
Yeah, we've got the next one is PayPal. Visa and MasterCard are pretty solid big guys, and then Square is also getting some interest. But this one here, PYPL, not that far. It's only $24 off its 52-week high, so it's actually held up in some respects better than others.
I like. I haven't talked about Visa with my folks in a while. I got to get back in talking about Visa and also PayPal. I think it was the last time we talked, maybe middle of February. I was briefing people on videos of bank tellers in China pouring like buckets of cleaning fluid on their money. And the PBOC, I can't believe they actually reported this, but they said they burned like 600 million yuan one day because physical gold, physical coins and cash can carry this thing. So I like the electronic payment system, man. I looked at my wallet the other day. I'm like, oh my God, there's cash in there. I'm like, money's dirty, to be honest with you. So I like this. I love PayPal and this electronic stuff. So yeah, I'd be bullish on these guys.
All right. Well, this is where the action's going to be, they say, when we come out of this thing, and that's in the semis. What do you think on SMH? This is where you'd find the 5G, the cloud, the cybersecurity guys, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I try and follow the 5G debate, and it went from being a national security issue with Trump and we're not doing it to maybe we are, to China saying if you don't, we're not going to do our trade war. I'm lost in all of it, and we have tinfoil hat wearing people saying that 5G is causing cancer or coronavirus and stuff like that, or it's a massive security risk. So I'm sitting on the sidelines with the whole 5G stuff. I mean, do I really need to look at my Netflix on my phone like 0.03 seconds faster than it is right now?
Right.
So the president needs to kind of give some better clarity. I know folks in the DOD just think it's absolutely not good.
Well, we've got the next one is a banking stock, and of course the banks have been up and down and over and out, but this one is the Bank of Nova Scotia, which I remember when I was in Jamaica, they had a branch down there. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. But
what's the symbol?
That's a BNS. That's the only time I ever saw a branch, was in Montego Bay. It didn't look like a real metropolis making a lot of money either.
No, I don't follow this bank. The banks in general, you got to be long-term bullish on, but like I said, and Jamie Dimon had a great letter to his shareholders yesterday. His kind of annual, it was awesome. When Jamie Dimon says we're in for a very bad depression, to guys like me, that means a very bad recession.
Yeah.
Translated to people on the street, that's we got a depression coming in Jamie Dimon's mind.
You know what he was saying at the top, Whiz, is 3,300, 3,400. He goes, what do you think of the markets? And he goes, well, it looks like they're predicting a rather rosy outcome here.
Exactly.
That is his way of saying, I think, this is overdone here.
Overdone, yeah.
And then when we're at the bottom of 08, his other comment was, I don't know where the market's going, but I know if money market's at zero, there's only one way to make money.
Correct. That's exactly right. That's the truth. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, and he's very subtle.
Yeah, exactly. He's good. He's very, very good. But he also had a lot of hope in it. The reason I bring him up and the banks is because if the mortgage thing and everything just starts imploding, the banks will be in trouble. But 3-4 weeks ago, seems like a year ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, when they were all at the White House before we started social distancing, they all, to a person around the table with the president, said, we're good. We got tons of cash. We're well capitalized. This is a medical crisis, not a financial one. And then here we are 4 weeks later, where this really has turned into a financial one as well. So you got to be long-term bullish on the banks, just because you have to be. If they ain't lending or imploding, we're all in trouble. But short-term, I'm telling you, man, it's one of my Whiz indicators. When dudes, very good friends with, ain't calling me back, and they're in a lot of meetings, it's often not good, whether it's in the Pentagon or up in up north.
And the other thing on the banks is these yields that they are giving out are very, very juicy. Wells Fargo's at over 7%. Now, the first thing is that the Fed may tell them, and I think Janet Yellen was actually suggesting that they should suspend, maybe not eliminate, but suspend their dividend payments to hold on to that cash.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Fed, again, like I said, every time I think they're out of nuclear weapons, they go get another one. Remember, the Fed pays banks interest to sit on reserves. So if it really gets tight, the Fed stops paying that interest, or they actually tell banks, guess what? I'm going to charge you interest for the cash you're sitting on. So there is a final break glass in case of emergency. I mean, the Fed can just more or less stick it to the banks and say, if you don't loan this money, you're paying us money. Janet Yellen, she was good, because I mean, look at that. It's the dividend yield 7%. I was talking to my folks earlier in the week about maybe getting bullish on JP Morgan here, because I think this is in order. I'd go JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and then Morgan Stanley. But I like JP Morgan down here. Wells Fargo shocked me yesterday when they came out and said because this was going to turn into a little Occupy Wall Street moment. They said, hey, all the fees that we make doing all these small business loans, we're going to donate to charity. I'm like, beautiful. I didn't hear any other banks say that. So if no other banks do that, JP Morgan's going to be printing money on doing all these loans and stuff like that. Like you brought up, BlackRock last time I checked, ain't a charity. How much is the Fed paying them for them to execute their trades, man? There's a lot going on behind the scenes, man.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be interesting when the book of this is written,
One other thing is Apollo Management, who has a lot of, I guess, high yield bonds, but also has a connection with Jared Kushner, is trying to promote the concept of the Fed or Treasury buying the junk bonds and stabilizing that. So it'll be interesting because if they come out and start saying they're going to buy junk bonds, you're going to see that market go through the roof like you never saw.
True. That's a good point. Yep.
But that would be pretty far off a field. The next one's a SPDR, DIA. It's a Dow Jones, and basically that's where it is. Do you see much on that, DIA?
Yeah, I don't. The Dow's kind of old and stodgy for me. I'm an S&P 500 guy or a Russell, especially the Russell now, the RUT. 2,000 companies in America. That's kind of the heart and soul of America. But the same thing that I said about the S&P 500, I'd cut and paste and put on the Dow. I mean, you got some bigger, like I said, stodgy names in there and a Boeing and stuff like that. But I like to spread my bets out a little bit more, either over 500 or 2,000 companies. How many are in the Dow anyway? 30?
30, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The Russell you just mentioned and the transports are the two that really kept me away from being bullish up at the highs because they never made a new high since 2018.
Correct.
So they were really not confirming. But I noticed today on the Russell, you went from 1190 to 1139, which is a pretty good size reversal. These are companies that are small cap, and aren't they reinvesting their cash? So when their cash flow is taken away and they don't have any cash because they're small cap reinvesting, they're in a big pinch, right?
Correct. Yeah. This is the canary in the coal mine. Is the Russell. And if we are going to take another leg down here, the Russell's going to get absolutely destroyed. I bought some disaster puts on the Russell a couple weeks ago that got blown out, but I would sleep better at night if I was holding some Russell puts out a couple weeks. Again, we got Good Friday, markets closed. We got weekly unemployment claims Thursday, but I think we're going to know in the next 2 weeks, with New York's curve peaking and everybody else like that. Before I jumped on the air, I was reading about New Jersey. New Jersey's governor already said, nope, another 30 days. We're not even close to this. So, New Jersey, my home state, man, is already punting another 30 days. So I don't know, man. The DIA, I'd be bearish on it, just like I am with the SPDR.
Yeah. Everyone somebody made a comment I thought was interesting, and it was a question, where's Warren? And the only thing we've seen out of Warren Buffett is to reduce his airline stock underneath 10%. So I guess he doesn't have to do as much reporting if he wants to dump the rest of it.
It's funny you bring that up, man. That was one of my indicators. I'm like, where's the Warren indicator? He usually comes out in the dark times right around pretty damn close to the bottom and says, I'm buying with both hands or God bless America. You haven't heard boo from that guy, because he knows the bottom isn't in yet. So he's got
that 128 billion, and he's looking at a lot of blood in the street on the rest of his portfolio. So he's probably going to be very careful on where he applies it, and he wants to really be shooting fish in the barrel with the water at the bottom like he likes. Right?
Yeah, he's definitely after somebody else fire, he walks into the movie theater and kind of picks up, picks everybody's wallet and stuff like that.
Well, we got the last one here is KB Homes, and obviously it was doing nothing but fabulous until they decided to let everybody stay home for a while.
Yeah.
And this thing dropped all the way down to $10 from $40. So that is a really 80% drop. Ouch, ouch.
Jeez.
But, we got all those millennial people who are going to be wanting homes, and the interest rates are extremely low. I don't know if they're going to qualify, but is there a future down here?
This would be speculative at this point. We really have just changed. The country will never be the same. We said that after 9/11, but we kind of almost got back to normal. But this is nuts. Realtors aren't showing homes. It's all virtual. I'm not going out of the house or going in an infected place or something like that. So I'd be bearish. Could not be more bearish on the housing sector. I mean, you know, when people just stop paying their mortgages, ain't going to be people looking for new homes. It does remind me of 2008, that what is about to happen to the market. Just the whole house of cards on the real estate side, I think, is going to implode. I would not be bullish on KB Homes at all.
No. Lennar, LEN, and Pulte, PHM are down sharply, but not to the 80% degree that the other one is.
Yeah, this one got obliterated. But yeah, I just don't see any. The housing or any of that stuff is coming back anytime soon. I'm already seeing big price reductions here in Boca Raton. I always look at real estate, looking out in Aspen. I mean, people are slashing, especially the high-end home, man. These, these small business owners that were kind of doing well for themselves are starting to liquidate stuff that they just can't, they can't deal with.
Well, we're pretty much at the top of the hour, Whiz, and rather than you go, do you have anything you wanted to talk about specifically as far as the stock is concerned, or do you want to just really explain to people how they can get a hold of you, how they can get involved in the rooms that you set up, and things like that?
Yeah. Like I said, we're doing our full throttle right now. It's packed. We have like 2,800 people registered, and I forgot our GoToWebinar room only holds 1,000 people, and we were turning away people yesterday. So my apologies, but all the replays that we've done this week are posted on our replay page, and it's pretty easy to remember. It's go.topgunoptions.com/FT. It stands for Full Throttle Replay. You can watch today. We got bearish on Vail Mountain Resorts. I mean, they're just they're in a lot of trouble too. And also I added another bear call spread on EWZ, which is the Brazilian ETF. I got a lot of friends in South Florida, a lot of friends in Brazil, and this guy's in a lot of trouble, Bolsonaro. I mean, he's literally making Trump just look like he's a genius. And I got a couple little birdies that are saying if it gets worse, he might be throwing out the martial law word. Which, it was kind of mentioned, and maybe United States quarantine. Brazil ain't the United States. That guy, he's a former paratrooper, and he's just, I mean, literally just completely unhinged on this whole thing. The other day, I saw a clip of him, like his security guys had masks on, and he's like wading into a crowd, kissing babies and shaking hands and shit like that. I mean, does he not know Boris Johnson is in the ICU with this thing? So I'd be very, very bearish on EWZ. And it's sad, like I said, I'm wearing a flight suit. I'll tell you how I feel as an American, and losing lives, and this breaks my heart. But I'm also going to be Gordon Gekko. We've been pounding EWZ into the dirt all the way down here. So I'd be bearish on EWZ and Vail Mountain Resorts. Yep.
All right, guys, everyone's got time out there because obviously we're in a lockdown situation. So as I've been saying, this is a great time to educate yourself. And obviously, Whiz brings an awful lot to the table as far as information and experience. So, be smart, check out what he's doing for you, and then basically see if it's a match and take it from there. Whiz, thanks a lot for being here. It's always fantastic to speak with you, and it's always a lot of fun. So thanks again.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, I have a weekly update that we do send out by email. So if you're interested in getting an update on what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, go to optionprofessor@gmail.com. Up until then, though, let's give back over to David Kosmider to close us out. And again, thank you very much, Whiz.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great show. So just a quick reminder to everyone, be sure to subscribe to Timing Research on YouTube and your favorite podcast network. Also, you can go to TimingResearch.com to get access to any of the past shows and the archive of this show as soon as I can get it posted. So just want to thank my guests again for today, Matt Buckley of TopGunOptions.com and Jim, the Option Professor at OptionProfessor.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
All right, guys, we'll see you.
Okay.